Hi everyone, Molly Oyua with Sacred Fire Creative. And today I'm so excited to bring you my guest, Lauri Elizabeth. Hi, Lauri.
Hi.
Awesome. So thanks for being here. I'm so excited that you're a part of the Portland Acupuncture Studio team. So that's part of why we're interviewing you today. And so just to give people an idea of who you are, can you tell us a little bit more about your story and how you got into acupuncture?
Sure. I started receiving acupuncture probably 15 years ago. An acupuncturist came to me. I was an Alexander Technique teacher, and an acupuncturist came to me and said, "Would you like to exchange work? And you get acupuncture and I'll get Alexander Technique." So I said, sure, because I had no idea. I'd never had acupuncture before. I didn't know what to make of all of this energy business. So I thought I would give it a try, and I did. And at first, I didn't really notice much of anything. But as time went on and we kept exchanging work, I started to notice more and more. After treatment, I felt a general sense, I just felt really good. And there wasn't any particular thing that there was no particular symptom that suddenly went away. It's just after a treatment, I had this very general sense of well-being that I started to really like and want to have more and more in my life. So many years later, I decided that I would like to go back and get some training in acupuncture. So I went back to school locally here in Portland and trained to be a teacher and an acupuncturist. And then after school, I was invited to stay on as the on-campus resident. So the school I went to is at the time was the only school that had a residency program. And I got to be the resident for a year. And then after that, private practice.
Awesome. So let's dig in a little more to that. Can we do that? Okay.
Sure.
So, what we want to know, I think one of the things you mentioned is the Alexander technique. So I know that people may not know what that is. Can you tell us a little more about that and what you were doing with that at the time?
Sure. So Alexander technique helps people unlearn habits that interfere with natural functioning. So when I say this to people, they say, "Oh, I need that." And it's true. Just about everybody can use some Alexander technique in their lives. But the people who use it most often are actors. Almost all actors have some training in Alexander technique. Dancers, musicians are very commonly trained in Alexander technique, and then athletes. So the people who, in order to do their art, need to be operating at their highest level. Those are the people who often come for Alexander technique lessons. And then people who are in pain, who know that something that they're doing is causing their pain. They come for lessons and start to unwind those habits that are keeping them in pain or causing their pain in the first place.
Okay. So it's a very different technique though than acupuncture, right? Even though you might be working with people who are similar, you lead them through a little. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure. So I guide people in simple everyday activities like sitting and standing or walking or talking. And we use these activities as a model for how they use themselves in every activity that they do. So the same pattern of use that you have for yourself when you're sitting and standing and working at your computer is the same pattern of use that you'll have when you go try to run a marathon or sing an opera or whatever it is that you want to do. It's the same pattern of use. So we use simple activities that you're practicing all the time as a model for how to change that underlying fundamental pattern of how you use yourself. And I use a combination of hands-on guidance. Do you want me to continue, or do you have a question?
You're kind of cutting out, so it's hard to understand what you're saying a little bit, but it's okay. And so, I mean, it happens, technology, right? So I want to talk about how you made that switch. I mean, you talked a little bit, you did some trades with somebody, you became interested in it. What was the trigger that made you decide, okay, now go to school for acupuncture?
So I had been teaching Alexander technique for about a decade, and I decided that I wanted to get training in something else. And I didn't know what something else was yet. So I started to look around and say, what could I use the Alexander technique information or body of knowledge and apply it to some other field? Or how could I kind of combine things? And I looked around and I thought of maybe a medical career or design, like designing furniture from an Alexander technique perspective that won't continue to keep people in their bad habits. And in the end, I decided that what I'm really interested in is when I have my hands on somebody and I can feel very subtle changes, what's going on? That's what I'm interested in. And that's what brought me to acupuncture, because acupuncture uses palpation in a very subtle way. And we palpate the pulse, we palpate the abdomen, we palpate the channels. What am I feeling with my hands, and how can that allow me to help somebody? That's what I'm interested in.
So yeah, so I'm just trying to like piece together the clues for people. So Portland Acupuncture Studio is a fertility acupuncture studio. How'd you go from, Alexander technique over to Portland Acupuncture Studio?
So even before I trained as an acupuncturist, I had a lot of interest in women's health. So I have patients with PCOS or endometriosis, and patients with just challenging menstrual cycles, or patients going through menopausal symptoms. So I've always been interested in helping women through those sorts of issues. I myself had what I call a detour through infertility when I decided that I wanted to become a parent myself. Okay. So I'm a single mother by choice, and I have a 3-year-old son now.
Oh, well, congratulations. Awesome. Thank you. And so what has your experience been like these last few months working at Portland Acupuncture Studio, especially during COVID?
Right. It's been wonderful. The team there is really, really top notch. Everybody is very kind and everybody wants to come together to create a space where people can heal. And that has been wonderful. I've really enjoyed working there and starting there. I've enjoyed our patients. I've loved helping people through their fertility journeys. And I just recently, a patient of mine got pregnant, which is just so exciting to have that happen.
That's great.
It's like I get to celebrate every week.
Wonderful. So, and it looks like we have a few people on. So if you're watching live, thank you so much. Go ahead and type any questions you have for Lauri in the comments, and I can bring those up on the screen. And if you are watching on the replay, thank you so much. And also send your comments and I can get them to Lauri for you. So one of the questions I had, so, you've been interested in women's health. How is acupuncture for women's health different from acupuncture for fertility? So is that something that you have to get certified in, or you just sort of learn, or, what has the process been like for you?
Mm-hmm. So there is a certification program. I'm not yet certified. It requires a number of continuing education classes and sitting for a board exam. So that's something that hopefully in the future we'll get to. But at this point, I am not certified yet. So how is it working with fertility? Well, actually, fertility and women's health have a lot in common. So when, say, a patient with PCOS, when I'm working with them, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, for anybody who doesn't know that acronyms, when I'm working with them to help regulate their menstrual cycle, that same process is similar to somebody undergoing fertility treatments or wanting to get pregnant. I still need to regulate their menstrual cycles so that they are as healthy or as optimized as possible. So in a way, it's very similar. In a way, it's not so similar in that if a patient is undergoing fertility treatments, they really need to they're on a particular schedule, and the medications that they're taking are really regimented and sort of producing a cycle, even if a person wouldn't normally have a cycle on their own. So working through the side effects of those medications is a lot of what we do for fertility patients.
Okay. And so can you tell me more about that?
So any specific questions about it?
Yeah, you just mentioned that you help people you help them with side effects. So I was just wondering what you meant.
Okay, sure. So when a patient is going through fertility treatments, they have to take, there's sort of two segments to it. One is to retrieve the eggs, and that requires particular medications, which have their own set of side effects. And then for the transferring of the embryo, that's a different set of medications and has different side effects. So when a woman or a patient is going through an egg retrieval, typically they might come in for treatment because the medications are making them feel really heavy, or it's painful that all the medications create a lot of stagnation in the pelvic area. So the medications also create a lot of emotional ups and downs typically. So acupuncture can help with all of that.
Oh, okay.
And then go ahead.
Keep going.
For an embryo transfer, it's a totally different set of medications. And actually also some mood changes, but they're quite different mood changes. They might be more irritable or something like that, which acupuncture can for sure help with. And I recently learned some really interesting research that acupuncture can help with the microcirculation of the uterus, so that when someone is preparing for an embryo transfer, we can help prepare the lining so that the embryo that's transferred in can have a nice cushy landing spot.
Great. Yeah, no, that's fascinating. So that was a lot more information. So really appreciate it. So you and Winslet are kind of new to Portland Acupuncture Studio. I know that Lisa is like your resident guru in terms of fertility. Do you have a specific niche that you fill at the studio?
Well, I have a niche in the sense that my patient population that I tend to work with are patients who I really enjoy working with, patients with complicated health histories. So patients with chronic illness, like a polycystic ovarian syndrome or endometriosis. The style that I use is really good for chronic illness. And those kinds of chronic illnesses often come with a pain component. And pain is something that I have worked with for forever, including with the Alexander technique. So before my acupuncture training, I even worked with people in pain. So people who are in pain is another sort of patient population that I work with. And then the other thing that distinguishes me is my style of practice. I use incredibly gentle needling. Almost the thinnest of the thin needles are the ones that I typically use. I'm trained in a number of different palpation styles. So I will palpate, as I talked about earlier, I'll palpate the channels, I'll palpate the pulse, I'll palpate the abdomen, I'll palpate other parts of the body. And that will give me information about how to treat. So then I will go and I will start with a few needles, and then I will come back to the abdomen and palpate again. I'll come back to the pulse and palpate it again. And that will tell me, number one, if the needles that I put in are doing what I hope they're doing. And number two, what my next step is. So it's this conversation that I have between my hands and the patient's body that tells me what to do and whether it's working. So it's pretty different from most acupuncturists.
I like it. I like the way you describe it. So, it could be the Lauri Elizabeth technique, right?
Definitely.
I haven't heard that before, but I like it. It sounds really interesting to me. It sounds like you're really in tune with, your patients, what they need, and it's like an ongoing tune in. So you're not like in the beginning, you don't make your assessment and then you're like walk away for half an hour,
Right.
It's a little more interactive that way. So, that sounds really interesting. I like how you've described what you do and who you treat. I know that you also work with infants or kids.
Oh, yep, that's true.
Want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
So when I was in acupuncture school, I started training in the Japanese style of pediatric treatment, which is non-insertive. So no needles are inserted, although we do have a number of needles that we can use. They would only be used on the surface of the skin. So only to touch an acupuncture point or kind of vibrate an acupuncture point or to stroke the channels. We have different tools for that. It's called shonishin, and it means little child needle, I think.
I just read about this on your bio, so you
great.
Feel free to talk about it because I was going to ask you about that. So
great,
yeah.
Kids love it. They absolutely love it. It feels really good. And actually, I use a lot of the techniques on adults too. It feels really good.
That makes sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that sounds very different, even though, you're still working with, the same systems and the same body of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so kids really like it. So the kids who are coming in, are they having like pain and then chronic illnesses? What's going on with the kids?
It could be that. It could be pain and chronic illness. It could be teething. It could be difficulty with nursing. Sometimes my own son, when he was born, he had a really tight neck and shoulder, and it made his jaw really tight, and he had a really hard time nursing. So I had my mentor treat him for that to help with nursing. It could be later on in life, it could be bedwetting. It could be, the options are limitless.
Wow. So acupuncture treats so many different things. I mean, I feel like, you really could say, okay, if you're having any issues, just call me and we'll see if we can help you.
Exactly.
That's a little broad, right?
It is
so
a little
I'm going to be kind of specific, but I mean, I don't think that all acupuncturists treat kids or treat.
That's true.
So that I just wanted to kind of, specify that because I know it's one area of specialty that you have. And, so what else is on the horizon for you? So, I mean, I know you have a lot of different experience and things you can bring into the treatment. What are some things you're looking forward to?
Well, one area, speaking of kids, that I've been interested in doing is there's a woman in town named Carol Gray, and she does craniosacral for infants. And it's an area of training that I've been interested in for a long time. So once the pandemic is over, I'm hoping that I can set aside some time to go get some training with her.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So has it been really busy during the pandemic? Or I know the studio might have been closed before you started.
Yeah.
But how has the pandemic affected your treatment of the patients and the whole protocol at the office?
So I feel really, really good about the protocol that we have going at the office. We are screening patients before they come in. Once they get there, we're screening them again. I am all geared up with my scrubs and my mask and my goggles. So, and every patient wears a mask the whole time they're there. I've not seen all medical practices doing that, unfortunately. So I feel really confident that we're doing our very best to keep everybody safe. That said, I actually feel like it's still a really warm and inviting location or environment that my patients tell me, I feel really good when I'm here, or I feel really good when I leave here. So I feel like that's been a nice respite from many environments that we have to go into nowadays that are just a little bit more cold because of the pandemic.
Yeah, I can really hear it, just talking to you, that you really care about your patients and you really have a passion for what you're doing, which I know is like more cliche, but I just mean like this is like a lifelong journey for you. I can really hear that. I really like that. And I appreciate you, telling me about some of the other techniques just because I was curious.
Sure.
But let's see. One of the other things I wanted to be sure and ask. So I know you've been involved also with writing blogs, right, for the website. Since, I've been helping Lisa with some of the marketing and all of that, I really do appreciate that. I just want to say, because having that clinical perspective, is very important. It's really like allows us to be the brand managers that we can be, to represent you well, because you're putting this out with sources and everything like that. What are some future topics that we can look forward to reading about?
I was just asking Lisa to provide me for some topics.
Oh, okay.
I think I'll probably do some more on pediatrics. I'm not sure the specifics yet, but I would like to write some more about pediatrics. I've been, this term I'm teaching a bodywork class at the National University of Natural Medicine. So I'm a little bit steeped in the bodywork traditions that I've learned, and I might do a bodywork blog. We'll see. Those are some of my thoughts off the top of my head.
That is great. No, I mean, all of it's good. And you're just bringing in your experience, what you are, naturally doing. And so I think that that's really great. And I just want to apologize to you, Lauri, because now, 23 minutes in, I realized that I sent you this whole list of questions, and then probably asked you two of them might have gone way off topic. So just thank you so much for being graceful and just going with the questions, which, I tend to do, just kind of more conversational. So I hope I didn't throw you off like that too much. And I just want to say, I appreciate you for sharing. I know you're teaching at NCNM. Is there anything that you want to let people know about that they don't know yet about either, your practice, like who you want to see in your practice, or things that you have coming up that you want to tell people about?
Gosh, I just want to keep the patients coming, because I love being busy and I love working, and I love helping people. And if you come see me, then I will do this very gentle needling on you and have this palpatory conversation with your body. And I also do body work on most of my patients, so you can enjoy some of that.
That's lovely. Okay, and last but not least, okay, so I always have more questions. I do have. It's fortunate for you that I can't stay past 2:30, because I would just continue to ask you questions. Lauri, thank you for entertaining me and
no problem.
So my question for you in this last few minutes is, you kind of mentioned in the beginning that you are really excited about your success with one of your patients with their fertility. What's another, not naming names, what's another client success lately that you're really happy about that you can share with us?
Well, just before the pandemic shut everything down, I had an elderly patient who came in, and she'd had back pain for as long as she could remember. And I gave her a treatment. It was not my first treatment. I won't try to brag that it was a one-hit wonder, but I gave her a treatment, and she came back the next time and she said, I have not felt that good in 25 years. 25 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
I know. I couldn't believe it when she said that.
25 years. That's a really big compliment. I would tell you, get that on your Google reviews.
For sure.
Just a marketing brain of mine, sorry. But no, that is so wonderful. I love it. And it's been so nice chatting with you, Lauri. Hopefully you'll come back and share more next time I ask you to chat on an interview. Just kind of casually. I might go off track with the questions, but really thank you for being here today and sharing. Any last closing thoughts, anything else that you want to share before we say bye to everybody?
I'm here. Come see me.
Yeah. Awesome. Portland Acupuncture Studio, Lauri Elizabeth, and definitely go see her, especially if you have any kind of chronic illness or pain. Those are some good things. Or also for kids, infants, women's health. I mean, any number of things. Lauri, thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.